Hey everybody. Wanted to check in and make sure everybody can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Dan? This is Tom.
Yep. Hey Tom.
Okay.
You can't hear me, Skylar. Tom, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
Is Skylar talking? Can you hear Skylar?
Skylar is on mute at the moment. Let me unmute you. Skylar?
Yeah, I think I'm in.
Yeah, okay. I have always done Zoom meetings. I have never managed one before, so I've got a whole bunch of new controls at my fingertips now.
Skylar, can you hear me? This is
I
Tom.
can hear you, Tom. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the birthday fundraiser. Jim is going to be thrilled. I was hoping he'd get 1,000. We're up to 1,500. So kudos to you, friend.
Well, they would have spent it on drinks, so it all comes around eventually.
Well, whatever helps the man. So thanks.
Marion, are you there? You're on mute. Unmute you. Skylar, you must be on a lot of conference calls and Zoom calls. You have to be.
Yeah, although we're using whatever the Microsoft solution is. It's called
Teams.
Microsoft Teams. Yeah, it's been nice. It worked really well.
Yeah, I only use that. I only use that when I have to talk to Microsoft. Funnily enough.
We are an Outlook workplace. So as much as I'd love to be on Google, when I was with the state, we were with Google, and then I had to learn Outlook.
Dan, do you see myself and Skylar and everyone else? Because when Skylar talks, I see his name come up, but I don't see Skylar. How is that possible?
Yeah, I don't see everybody.
Now I see Skylar.
I have the camera off by default. I set everyone to have their camera off by default and be muted by default. So if people don't want to have their camera on, they certainly can be on. Wow, this must be the most attended candidates night I can remember. So we'll give it another couple minutes and then we'll get started.
Dan, it said Control A to get the microphone to work.
Oh, well, there you go. Thank you, Marion.
I'm sorry, Alt A.
Alt A.
I pushed Control A first. That did not work.
So, yeah, speaking of this, Skylar, I know there was some chatter about a press club happy hour. I've got my club soda here, no
There
lime.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah, if people want to get a drink, you're more than welcome to. But
who knows?
we have a
what
Zoom
might be in
account.
here.
Yeah. What, is that tea, Laura?
I can neither confirm nor deny that it's tea.
Tea with some special stuff added to it. No. So
either
Skylar,
water or straight gin. I'm not sure which.
we have Skylar. We have
I'm not gonna lie.
I got us a Zoom account for the press club for however long we need it. So it's very reasonable. So you can use it, Skylar, for your organized happy hour if you so choose.
Better than the disorganized happy hour.
Yes.
But they normally are.
Skylar,
Right.
I'm really impressed with the tip thing that you did. That's a big number.
Yeah, I was surprised too. I guess people aren't going to the bars, so they've got a little extra.
Yeah, good job there. I was going to try and do it ourselves, like on our website, and you did it much better. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure some other folks are going to join us. If everybody could just, I think the easiest thing to do is just mute yourself if you're not talking, just to keep things sane, so we don't have dogs and other various things that tend to interrupt these meetings going. But welcome everybody to probably the first in the press club's 158 years history. Am I doing my math right?
No.
just something like that, a remote candidates night meeting. I sent a newsletter out to the membership earlier today, just detailing all the folks who are going to be running. It is largely the same board that we had last year. Our venerable Vice President Linda Shapley will not be continuing, and we, of course, are very grateful for her service. But most everybody else, I guess I haven't scared them off too badly, so they're coming back for more punishment for another round. And so really what the purpose of this meeting tonight is to just go through and talk about who we are, what we do, and what we expect to accomplish the press club going forward. So I can just sort of start with myself. I have this blocked out for a full hour, but don't need to take the full hour. So I'll start off, Dan Petty, president of the club. I know most of you in here. As I noted in my letter to the membership this morning, and I feel like it's worth just stating publicly in the interest of full transparency, I'm running for president. I have been the president since late 2018, succeeding David Milstead, but my tenure is going to be abbreviated because I'm going to be stepping down as soon as I figure out when my class schedule is for starting an executive MBA program here in the next couple months. It's supposed to start at the end of May, but I'm willing to bet that that's not going to happen. So we're going to play it by ear. I want to thank Kevin Vaughn, who's our current treasurer, for being willing to step up and jump into my spot when this is all over. Kevin and I have worked together for the last few years. Kevin as treasurer, myself as president, and as I've sort of alluded to in the various messages, we had a really successful year. We are financially stable, and we had a number of big things that we accomplished last year. We received a $200,000 grant from the History Colorado and the State Historical Fund. Work on that is going to begin fairly soon, and we launched a new website. Streamlined our membership system. We have a lot of membership dues that just went out this week, and so I'm really excited about that. I look forward over the next few months continuing to build and improve the club, even if we can't be in there in person. Certainly the infrastructure improvements are huge. I'm really proud of the fact that this year we are awarding $15,000 in scholarships to various $15,000 in scholarships to the various schools, Colorado universities and colleges. We had a number of really excellent entries, and once we have the Damon Runyon Award, likely to be in September, or at least I should say that's what we're shooting for at this point, we'll honor those folks as well. So we've made a lot of progress, and I expect to just continue that. We're really investing a lot more in really two key areas, membership, of course, and development. And one of the things we've done is we've partnered with a new online giving platform called Mobile Cause that we were hoping to debut at the Runyon dinner, but are instead going to be using it to help allow for online donations to the club and making that a lot more seamless going forward. So expect to see more of that. And really that's it. We want to continue to grow membership because that's a really important part of our mission, continue to grow and expand programming and offer programming journalistically. Obviously with all the changes, I think one of the things that we're going to focus on going forward is what we can do remotely and virtually, since we're not really quite sure when this is going to end. But I think we can be a really excellent source for media people, journalists, and others through a platform like Zoom. So that's a little about me. And I think it probably makes sense next to go to Kevin Vaughn, but are there any questions from anybody on the call for me? And remember that many of you are muted. All right, well, that's all right. If you think of them, you can always just drop them into the chat box at the bottom. I'm keeping an eye on that. Kevin Vaughn, do you want to go next?
Sure. Thanks, Dan. as Dan said, I've been on the board for 2 years. I've been treasurer for 2 years, and I've agreed to. I'm running for another term, obviously, and I've agreed to succeed Dan as president when he heads off in a couple months to work on his degree. My thing with the club has been sort of twofold. Been trying to work really hard to guarantee that we have the financial foundation and processes in place to continue to develop that financial foundation to ensure that this club will be here for generations into the future. It was an important place for me when I was a young journalist. I've told the story before, but I got a Denver Press Club scholarship when I was in college. I think it was $650, and it might as well have been $1 million because I was paying most of my freight, and it was a godsend. And I've been in and out of the club for 35 years ish, and love the place. So obviously, the financial condition of the club is paramount because if we can't survive financially, we can't survive. Period. So I'm excited about the fact that we recently approved a very detailed line item budget, the first one that anyone around these parts can remember, with that much detail and that much thought. We've had budgets in the past that were much more, I don't know what the technical term is, loosey-goosey, I think. Anyway, I'm excited about the History Colorado grant and an accompanying grant from the Gates Family Foundation and the money we've raised from members that are going to help us begin the process of transforming our building from a now 95-year-old structure into one that will look and feel the same to us while we're in it, but will be positioned to withstand another century of use. And we're getting our leaky roof replaced first. And our hope is that over the next few years, we'll make further improvements, ultimately to the point where we're fully ADA accessible, and the point that all of our mechanical systems are updated to, 2020 standards versus some of the stuff that's in our building that's nearly 100 years old. So those are really my two key pushes. I'm excited about all the programming that we do. Every month when I look at the calendar, I see all kinds of events that look fascinating to me. I'm afraid I can't get to as many of them as I'd like, but I like what we're doing. I like the scholarship program, and I think we have a lot of good stuff going on, and I want to keep it going. And my hope is that today and for many years in the future, other young journalists will find their way into the press club, and it'll be a special place for them, like it has been for me. So that's pretty much my spiel. I'm happy if anybody's got questions to answer them. Hearing none, Dan, I'll toss it back to you for the next speaker.
Great. Jim Clark, how about you go next, since you are one of our key leaders on the building side?
Well, Kevin stole all my good lines. I want to stay on the press club board, which I've been on for about 6 months, because I've dedicated my professional life to the news business and to the First Amendment, and I think the Denver Press Club is a vital part of both those things in Colorado. And I really love that old building, and I want to see the repairs through, which is what I've been involving myself with for the most part. So that's why I want to be on the board.
And you are, just with this leadership shuffle, you have agreed / been coerced into being a vice president, I think, once the transition takes place. Yes.
I am.
I'm holding you to that. This is being recorded, so you know.
And I know I'm quoting some former vice president of the United States when I say, I'm sure the position isn't worth a warm bucket of spit, but okay.
Thanks. Great. Okay, let's go next down the line to other candidates. The person running for secretary, Megan Yergemeyer, is the news director at 9 News. She unfortunately can't be here because, as you might have heard, there is a couple of news things happening in the world. So But Megan has ably served as our secretary, so she's the keeper of all the minutes. And as just a reminder, all the members out there, of course, if you ever want to see copies of those, we can make those available to you. So next, let's go to Laura Frank.
Okay, thank you. As I'm listening to this, it strikes me that in a time that is so unstable, not only because of the COVID virus, but also, or the coronavirus, COVID-19, but also in the industry, how much stability has been brought to the press club over the past few years. And I don't take any credit for that. I've been on the board only 1 year, but I'd like to continue on the board to help continue that trend. As many of you know, my background is in developing new journalism models and sustaining nonprofit journalism and experimenting in public engagement. And that's what I would like to help further in this. And I just also want to say for the record that I've been on a number of other boards, including the chair of the Institute for Nonprofit News Board. And this board is one of the most impressive groups that I've ever been associated with. So I'm really thankful to each person who has served. And I would love the opportunity to continue serving.
Thank you, Laura. So, rather than, I'm thinking just kind of as the way the flow goes with this, rather than sort of just, have questions after each person, we'll just go through all the candidate introductions and we'll just save questions for the end. So if you have any, just hang tight. Just a couple more folks. Let's head next to Larry Rickman. Larry, are you there?
Hi, yes. Look, as Jim said, you guys stole all the good lines, but one of the things that is that makes me so motivated to be on this board is the notion of building community. I mean, we all know that this is a tough business and we're in really tough times. We've all seen the headlines from the last couple of weeks, and things are just tough all over, and it's more important today than it's ever been for us to support each other and find ways to help each other in whatever ways we can. And I think the press club is a great way for us to offer that support, whether it's through just social events or through continuing education or interesting topics. All of those things are great, and I'm proud to be associated with the press club. I wish I actually had more time to give to the press club, but I've got this little other side gig that's keeping me pretty busy these days. But I've just been very proud and thrilled to be a part of the press club.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, I do want to echo that. And I think we've said this a lot around these parts that, there's a lot of, I think every year we bring, people in for the Al Nakul Award for the Runyon, and it's inevitably a journalist from another city or town or something like that. And they come to the press club for the first time and they're like, wow, I wish we had something like this in our city, our town. And so it really means something. And I think, Larry, as you said, having a place to gather for community, whether that's virtually or in person, is so important. So thank you. Let's head next to Holly. Holly, are you there?
I am indeed.
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello, all. Okay, so I have to start by saying I'm not exactly sure, being on this board for only a few months, what the point of this is. All I can say is I love y'all and I hope you stay on the board. Just saying. If we're doing a why we believe in the board and why we're on it, I think, one of the biggest things I've said since joining this board is, wow, our profession has never been under attack as much as it is right now. And I don't care what your politics are, that doesn't matter. The bottom line is it's under attack. And more than ever, we need journalists to stick together and to have a place to commiserate and a place to share ideas and to start different initiatives. And so I really believe in this board. And I can tell you, it's a board made up of dedicated people who don't just call it in. They're absolutely involved all the time. So more than ever. And, you know, for young journalists, they need a place. And everybody on the board now knows that I've pushed this a lot. But I think it's so important for us to get young journalists involved and together and forming some sort of camaraderie, because our business is under attack, and they need to have someplace safe to be, to talk, to share ideas. And that's what I love about this board.
Thanks. And Holly, just for those of you who don't know, what is you work where and what do you do?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Remember, I'm the morning intern at Channel 7.
Right.
I'm the news director for KMGH, Denver 7.
Thank you. Everybody, just to go back, Larry Rickman, editor of the Colorado Sun, Jim Clark, the West Region Director for the Associated Press, Kevin Vaughn, investigative reporter at 9 News. Laura, you introduced yourself, so I think that covers everybody. Okay, next on our list of candidates who I see in the queue, Noelle, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. I'm Noelle. I'm the breaking news editor at the Denver Post. I've been on the board for a year, and I'm from Tennessee, and we trade whiskey for votes, and I'm not sure that's excluded in the press club's bylaw, so hit me up when the club reopens and I'll get you some Maker's Mark or Jack, since that's from Tennessee. So I really liked the press club when I first came here. It was a good place to go hang out with fellow journalists and talk and wind down from the day. And I still think it serves that purpose. And I like to do things to try to get more journalists in. The past year, I organized a young journalist resume review and workshop. We had almost 20 college students come in the fall and get prepped for their internship applications. We had one scheduled for the spring. It's now scrapped because of the coronavirus. And we had a young journalist mixer. And then one of the things I did was a bunch of us that cover the Aurora Police Department were having problems with getting information from them. And we got a group together to discuss strategies for dealing with that. And then they turned into turmoil. We ended up never approaching them because you don't know from one day to the next who the chief is going to be. Anyway, these are the kinds of things that I think the press club is useful for and to help promote journalism in Denver. And that's why I volunteer time to do this.
Great. Thank you, Noelle. Okay. I think let's head next to Roger Ogden. Roger, are you there?
I am here. Hopefully
Hi.
I have this wired properly.
We can hear you loud and clear.
First of all, if I am elected, if that's the will of the club, this will be my 6th year on the board. And one of the first actions I will take is to try to institute a term limitation policy to our board, because I think 6 years is probably enough, if not more than enough. But I would repeat a couple of things I said. The reason I got involved over 5 years ago was I was living downtown at the time, and I wandered into the club, hadn't been there for years, and ran across one individual. It was like 7 o'clock on a Friday night, and there was a guy by the name of Rains behind the bar who said, "You better have a drink pretty quickly because this club is about to go under and we're going to close the doors." That was his view at the time. My previous experience there had been with people like Carl Akers and John Rayburn and Stormy Rotman. Early on in my career, they would go down and have dinner there, and we would meet a lot of different journalists from around the city, but it was very much a social club at the time. And so I decided, having a little extra time on my hands, that I would get more involved, and understood that there had to be not only an effort to financially get the club back on its feet, but there had to be an evolution as to what the club really stood for and what its mission was. And I think the thing that has been most gratifying to me, particularly in the last 2 years, is to see that vision and that wisdom sort of play out, where it's become a beacon of light for young journalists that transcends being a social club and has become a point of gathering where people can participate in serious meetings about serious matters, as well as socialize with one another. So it's really been a remarkable transformation from that first night with Rains and my first beer in probably 20 years. And I just have enjoyed doing that. I've participated as I've been able to. I do have radio properties up in the mountains that are particularly challenging at the moment, since all the mountain communities are essentially closed down. And about 80% of the people who normally advertise with us are no longer doing so because they're not open. So I've been spending more and more time up there. But I will spend one more year with the club, and hopefully we'll try to continue to contribute where I can.
Roger, thanks. Yeah, Roger, the veteran on the board, and we appreciate your time and service. Thanks. Okay, let me see. Skylar McKinley, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, folks. Skylar McKinley here. Can you hear me all right? Looks like it.
Yep.
Great. This would be my third year on the board. I'm the Director of Public Relations and Government Affairs for AAA Colorado. Prior to that, I advised Governor Hickenlooper in a variety of jobs, including in the press office and as Deputy Director of the Marijuana Office. I've been involved with programming at the club for both years. This year without Carol McKinley, who preceded me in organizing events. I think if I look to what I would be interested in accomplishing over another year would be to continue a lot of that momentum, working with Noel for some real journalism-focused events that have gotten new emerging journalists in the door, have brought in members who haven't been in a while, have created that sense of community that others have talked about. But then also recognizing that the club is a civic institution in Denver. And it's one that not a lot of people know about. More and more they do, and more they're coming back. But just, bringing in new voices from Denver's community, folks who might not be in journalism or journalism adjacent, but appreciate the mission of the club, appreciate the physicality of the club and the fact that it is an institution. And I think keeping that renewed sense of energy that Roger spoke about going. A big focus for me is going to be to try to have as many recurring events as possible. So we spoke about it, a young journalist mixer that went well. We had kickstarted a vinyl night, although that has been put on pause for the time being. If we just look at the hospitality establishments prior to the coronavirus that were doing really well, they had a lot of these regular events. They had a good cast of regulars coming in. They had folks who would have one night a week where they come in. And I think just continuing to build that spirit of community within the club will be a big focus. It is my favorite place to drink in Denver, and I think my regular bar is not going to be reopening after this, so it might become my only place to drink in Denver. And so I look forward to many more nights when this is all said and done.
Skylar, that is a great shirt, by the way. You have my vote.
Thank you. I didn't realize, I forgot we were doing this when I put it on this morning, but it's a really nice shirt. If you don't have one yet, folks, try to get one.
Thanks, Skylar. Okay, I think that is everybody except for our final person running, Jim Hill. Jim, are you there?
Sure am. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Good. I'm Jim Hill. I'm an editor at Colorado Public Radio. I've been a club member for a couple of years and have successfully dodged other attempts by previous boards to be recruited into this. But thanks to the growth at Colorado Public Radio, my schedule's opened up, so I didn't have a handy excuse anymore. The two things I'm kind of looking for in getting on with the board would be to double the amount of bald guys named Jim in leadership positions. And
this is crucial. This is vital. It is.
Yeah, no, I agree. But on a serious note, I think it's time to give back to the club. I've gotten a lot of support and camaraderie from a lot of people that are on this conference call and a lot of different club members, and just the opportunity to hang out and shoot the shit and talk journalism with a lot of like-minded folks. And there have been challenges in the past, and now that the club is on much stronger footing, there's an opportunity to start to look towards future growth, different opportunities, building membership, and I'd like to help out with that. I think there's an opportunity to give something back for everything I've received.
Great, thanks, Jim. Well, at this point, we do have other members on the call who are not running for the board, so we appreciate all their presence. I didn't miss anybody who's running, right? I think I got everybody. Okay, no one's speaking up to saying that I was horrible and forgot somebody. So let's go ahead. At this point, I'll just open it up to those on the call, a few of you who are here, about if you have any questions for myself or any of the other candidates.
Hey, Dan, Dick Nosbish here.
Hey.
I just want to comment. I think you guys have done an incredible job. The most impressive thing I see that has changed on as far as the press club goes is you're bringing in new young people. I'm an old timer, and I really love the way you guys are doing it. Dan, you've done a great job. Your board has done a great job. I congratulate new people to come on your board, and I wish you well. I certainly support the club. I've been a member for maybe 30 years now, and this has been the most progressive board this past couple of years that you have ever done, and anybody's ever done. So I really applaud you and say congratulations, everybody, and good luck. You're crazy, absolutely crazy, but good job.
Yes, as a former board member yourself, I believe at some point, right, Dick?
A few times, yes.
No, we appreciate that. Thank you. A lot of hard work by a lot of people on this call. Great, thanks. Any others? Comments, questions?
I've been a nag about this. First of all, congratulations to this board as well. You guys have done a great job. I want to echo my support for Skylar's vision of this not just being journalism focus. Absolutely, that's the foundation, but also broadening it to a civic club as well. That's always been sort of my shtick. But the other is I've been nagging at this since I was on the board. Food. Any progress or any vision here? And I know Jim has been working on it through the renovation of the historic renovation, and there's some vision there. The need to incorporate a new kitchen. Any vision there for how to get some, even I've argued maybe as simple as a pizza parlor, but something that you're not just coming down there for a drink.
Yeah, great question, CL. Thanks. And I'd say that I'll kind of say my piece, and then I'll open it up for Tom to fill in any gaps as well. But it's definitely a recurring question that comes up. I'd say of all the issues that this club has dealt with in my 4 years involved with it, it's probably the most stubborn and difficult. I think we recognize that it's a real challenge. The most recent thing we've discussed before all of this disruption was partnering with area restaurants to at least have menus at the club from those bars. So places like Bar Red or elsewhere that would just be right there on the bar for you to be able to call, and they know exactly, it's coming from the press club, they know where it is, and there's some sort of agreement there where, we have some sort of partnership there where delivering to the club is not a huge problem, or picking up is super easy. So I think that feels like an intermediate step that we can take. In terms of actually getting back to cooking, I don't see that in I don't see that in the short term for sure. I mean, obviously the restaurant industry and bar business has been completely disrupted, but that's the most recent thing that we've talked about as sort of an intermediate thing. We've talked about other things like food trucks and as well. And the challenge with food trucks, of course, is that you have to have this critical mass of people. If you have 5 people in the club, a food truck is not going to necessarily want to be there. Now, if there were something, some of our more popular events, like say, Parade of Lights is probably one of our most popular events. We can't have a food truck on that because that's where the parade route is. But other things like that scale where you might get like 30, 40 people, we've done it before with some success. So those are some other options. But that's what we've talked about. Tom, since you are our fearless GM, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. Am I on?
Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
A la carte dining will not happen at the press club. I'll say it. It's not going to happen. We have 300, I've said this many times before, we have 300 bars and restaurants within a mile and a half. We cannot compete with those. We just can't. So the idea of having menus from area restaurants on hand. That's going to work. Ironically enough, Chris Kirkendall of Mescal Maggie, he of course bought the catering business from Maggie. He handed me or emailed me a menu that he would like to try. And he knows that the total risk of that is on him. He needs to work out the hours and products available, but he sent that to me right before this virus caused everything to crash. So he and I are going to be talking at length about this when we get up and running again. The issue that I have tried to manage with regard to food has been, we have put out food, just munchies, bar snacks. We do cheese and meat trays frequently, and meatballs because it's the tradition at the club. I have purchased and provided those to more programming events than you can shake a stick at. If we see that we're going to have 30 or more, I'm going to put something out for those folks. So we have incurred a significant expense in that regard, but it's manageable. Let's put it that way. So there's food available at the vast majority of our functions and programming, and I see that continuing.
Thanks for the question, CL.
Dan, I got another question for you.
Sure.
Since, over the years, we haven't had a restaurant there and so forth. I look at it and I said, it's almost empty space. Is there any possibility in the future to transfer that restaurant to something else? It's empty space now. You haven't been using it.
Are you talking about the kitchen specifically, or are you
I'm talking about the kitchen,
dining area?
Of course.
So the kitchen, we actually rent the kitchen out.
Okay. I thought so, but I wasn't positive. Okay.
Yeah. So Chris, who Tom mentioned, is a local caterer, and so it is actually valuable from the standpoint that there are caterers, chefs who are looking for commercial facilities. It's certainly not the most up to date, and Jim, maybe I could toss this over to you. We've honestly, with some of the plans that we have to make the club ADA accessible, the kitchen's going to be changing anyway. Jim, do you want to maybe expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, the footprint of the kitchen is really big for what we use it for, right? Leasing it to Chris for his catering business. It's probably going to shrink by 40% when we do the ADA access, because the trick about ADA is getting a ramp of the right slope to an elevator, and that's going to happen along the back wall and then along the west wall, to basically to the area in the front of the kitchen that's beneath the dumbwaiter, and that's going to be where the elevator is. That's how the architects have planned it. So it's going to shrink, and it's going to give us an opportunity to lay it out again and probably to buy new equipment. We could probably still lease it to a caterer, and it'll still be a useful kitchen, but it won't be what it is today.
When do you anticipate putting the elevators and so forth in? Are you talking long range?
By the time I'm in a wheelchair,
I can speak
probably 3 years, 4 years. Depends on the largesse of contributors and of History Colorado. It's the next phase. It's phase 2 of this effort. So I need another 200 grand from History Colorado, and then we're off to the races.
And so we have to finish the order of that project priority was very much like fix the roof, because if the roof is leaky and you end up destroying the building, well, you have no ADA access to fix in the first place. So that was the first priority. And that, Jim, is probably going to, construction will start, even with all this stuff, assuming nothing materially changes, is going to start in the next few months, right?
In June is what they're still saying. I asked the other day, and the architect said, timeline's not broken yet. We're still good.
Yeah, so that will start. And then, we have, probably a good year-ish or so of just sort of continuous
It'll be 4 months maybe.
Yeah.
It's honestly not that much work once they get going.
And then once we do that, it's we've got to go back and apply for another $200,000 again to do more.
Can I ask, is the construction in the lot next doors, is that on schedule, and when is that? When does that start?
Oh, I have an email out, and I will answer that for my dear sweet bride when I get that email back from that company.
Yeah, so just some context there for folks on the phone. Next door to us, where that big parking lot is now, is going to become a 12-story Fairfield Inn by a group of developers, I think from Iowa, if I'm remembering correctly.
Right, from Coralville, Iowa.
And, obviously, with the situation, what it is in the world, who knows if that has been delayed, if they don't have funding anymore. But Jim has been in touch with the developer and will let us know if anything changes there. We do know that, depending on where that ends up, that there is going to be below ground parking, and our hope is to somehow strike a partnership with that hotel so that, we don't use all the parking and it's not just a free for all on the street for us.
Yeah.
So back to, just real quick, back to Chris, the caterer and the kitchen. If we allocated one night a week for Chris to cook for us, maybe we could get more people to show up that night. If it's a feed for all. It's just an idea to give him the opportunity to cook for the club and for people in the club to have the opportunity to have some victuals on hand when we're drinking our fine bourbon. If we tried it maybe Friday nights or Thursday nights or something, or maybe just trivia night.
Yeah, we are, I'd say, I will leave that to Tom and Chris to sort of work out what makes sense. We did something similar, and CL will remember this, and Roger will probably remember this. We did something like this with Maggie when she was there, sort of like a once a month special dinner. They were a little on the pricier end for our membership, so we didn't get a ton of takers. But it sounds like, Tom, and I'll just defer to you again, that maybe this is something
totally
simpler.
not like that.
Right.
How about something absolutely not like that, and very much simpler, and more like snacks.
Tom, I don't know if you want to fill in any details there.
I'm just saying that, but we can move on.
No, I know the food issue is, there are multiple names I see on this call of people who have asked me about food, so don't feel bad about that question.
Hey, Dan, this is Kevin. If I could just jump in for a second too, to get back to Dick. We have discussed a goal of having the building completely refurbished in time for our 100th anniversary of the building, which is 2025. So that's 5 more years. And that would be new mechanical systems, new electrical systems, new plumbing systems, the roof fixed, all the brickwork on the outside shored up where it needs to be, and ADA access, ADA accessible bathrooms, basically almost like a brand new building in many ways, even though it will look very similar to how it looks now. And we will, of course, respect the historical aspects of the building and all that work. But
Kevin, we totally lost your audio.
Go ahead again,
right.
Kevin.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes.
Fine.
I didn't lose your video.
Marion, I think it might be on your side.
I was just saying that the goal is to have the club completely refurbished by 2025, which is the 100th anniversary of the building's opening. New roof, new mechanical systems,
Kevin,
new electrical and
I
plumbing.
still can't hear anything. I'm sorry.
I hear you fine.
Marion, I think it might be. I'll just.
For you, Larry.
Kevin, Dan, it's fantastic. Your goals are just absolutely super. Congratulations. One thing I can mention, I forgot to mention earlier, is I think an important thing your club has done too. You got a phenomenal general manager, Tom. And Tom, you do a great job.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you.
Concur.
I agree.
Let me address the food.
Go ahead, Tom.
If I am directed to once a week put food out on a regular basis, say once a week, Thursday night, Friday night, whatever it might be, we'll figure out how to make that happen. My experience, however, with members making use of that service has been terribly, terribly disappointing. I would agree, and I fought at length with Maggie to get the price of what she wanted to do down. And I was told when I first came in, we needed a good, at that time, they were saying we need a good $6 burger. Well, we're going to lose money on $6 burgers. But even when on Tom Green's guest bartender, and there was one other function, there were two functions where we served those $6 burgers and we promoted it. We served something like I think I put out food or prepared food for 50 or 60. We had 17 the first night, and that included a function that was going on the second floor that was unrelated to the other function. So I am going to ask that we carefully consider that. There are those who make that request frequently. I don't blame those folks at all. It is something that we should be able to provide in the event that we see sufficient demand for it. Chris is not, however, going to take that risk on himself. The menu that he sent me to provide, he knows that the risk is on him. But if we go to Chris and say, okay, we want this once a week scenario, that falls on us. So we have to be very, very careful on how we manage that.
I just throw my 2 cents in here. I've long thought that if we were going to go the food route, that maybe we explore some sort of partnership with Johnson and Wales, or something like that, where there's something in it for them as well beyond financial compensation.
We did that. And Johnson and Wales wasn't interested. Kara DeGette actually pursued them after doing an interview with them, and they just weren't interested. And then we also talked to Sage Hospitality to see if they were interested, and they had Julie Lucas looked at Metro at the hospitality program to see if there was some partnership with them. They had, or I forget now, if Sage Hospitality had a conflict with Metro or vice versa, and we couldn't bring them in. Skylar, I've continued to sort of suggest that there's some folks at Sage to look at. I think looking at somebody who really knows the business to see if there is, I still believe that there is a niche for us, but I think it's just a question. And there is so many moving parts with the great work you guys are doing on the historic preservation. And I've said this to Dan before, obviously it would be helpful to have some of that, a better, clearer view of that as you get to renovating the kitchen, but that's down the road. So it's something to think about for the next year.
Yeah, I think in just response to that, CL, I think some of the opportunities with the new website being on WordPress are going to allow us to communicate a lot more permanently and effectively. Basically like the email newsletter is kind of the mechanism for that. But some of that stuff, like the long-term construction stuff, we'll be able to more effectively communicate on the website now. So, you can see all from this discussion just sort of how how we've gone down multiple roads with the food thing. And there's no, unfortunately, perfect solution. A lot of restaurants operate on very thin margins as it is. And you can see with somebody like us, not in, a member-focused organization and, not this group of a ton of people, that it's a really challenging thing. And often, like, we get, just because of the nature of, how our events go, we'll often get roughly 24 hours notice when we start seeing like real intense interest in an event. And suddenly like the 10 people who have signed up turns into 40. And now you're like, oh, well, yes, we should have food for this. It's why, like, to Tom's point, having those, just dedicated menus from area restaurants, I think is a good interim solution, because you can adjust for demand there for that. But I think, again, we'll take to heart the feedback about working with Chris and coming up with something that is, again, a little more manageable, cheaper, friendly, just something to fill our tummies with while we're consuming our booze.
Dan, let me just make one point on the food.
Sure.
I was an advocate for what was going on with Maggie. I think I attended every one of the dinners she had, and they were terrific. She came out and explained every every portion of the meal, but they were pricey. I don't know that we marketed that event as well as we could have, but I think just from a purely strategic point of view, when you talk about allocation of resources, I think there was a little bit of a discussion up in Breckenridge on this. Food would be nice, but at this moment in time, it's probably not a driver behind our continued involvement. And rather than push the food, I think we continue to do the other things that we're doing to grow the club, and the food will follow. And we'll know when that moment in time comes, when food becomes a more important component.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Roger. Any other questions from folks on the call?
Yeah, I'd like to know how much time the candidates have, like a week to spend on the club, because Dan, you and I know how much, and I think several of you here know how much time it takes. I mean, it's not a just show up once for a once a month meeting. So I'd be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, and none of the folks on this board are, we're all dedicating at least a few hours a week. Like I for some stretch prior to this was measuring my time, and it would, evolve from like a really busy week for me personally and professionally, like maybe 5 hours a week on the club to, all as much as, 20, 25 hours a week. I think I told you that, Kevin Vaughn, right? It is a labor of love. There's a lot of volunteer work that goes in, but as for my involvement, it's like I said, I can be comfortable with 5 to 20 hours a week. I don't often have to get that busy, and frankly, we've gotten through a lot of big initiatives now that don't demand quite as much time. But as you well know, CL, you take your eye off the ball in this place, and things can not go in the direction that you want them to go. So I'll open that up to anybody else if they want to answer that question.
CL, for my part, it depends on what breaks in the club, right? And where we are in the construction schedule. It took me maybe 120 hours to do that grant, right? That was a lot of work. But that's a once every 3-year cycle, probably, or once every 2-year cycle. So, and I'm not writing the second one by myself. Someone else is helping me.
CL, I think of it like this. When I was a scout leader for my kids for years, and the pitch that they would give you was, we just need an hour a week. If you can just devote an hour a week to this program, it'll be great. And I figured out after a while they meant if you average it for the rest of your life, the time you put in, if you average it for the rest of your life, it works out to an hour a week. But I would say I've had weeks where it's been a 10 or 15 hour week, and I've had weeks when it's been a 1 hour week. I've got the 2 sticky notes here on my desk of a couple things I need to get done this week. I'll get them done at some point. It ebbs and flows. We just all the stuff we just did with our budget over the last month. I put a substantial amount of time into some financial calculations, but the last few weeks I haven't had to do very much at all. So it ebbs and flows, and I'm lucky that my kids are older, and I can devote the time to it now, and I have enough flexibility in my job that even in the middle of the day, most days, if I need to devote an hour to doing something, I can do it.
I would just echo, and it's no surprise to you, CL, I'm sure that it depends on what needs to be done. But I will say that the hours that I put in are nothing compared to what Dan does. And I just want to thank him again for his leadership. It's been extremely impressive. And thank you, Kevin, for being willing to step into that. This is a well-oiled board, and it's great to be part of it.
Once we have, it's always been our dream. Thanks, Laura. That once we, continue to grow our endowment, which of course you've been helping us with, that and fundraising, that we could CL finds somebody who could be like a part-time membership director for, 5 to 10 hours a week or something like that. Somebody who would be, as Skylar, I'm sure, and Noel would appreciate, somebody who could coordinate membership activities and schedule things like that. That's a significant chunk of time. I don't know if Skylar's still on the call, but I know Skylar and Noel, it's a lot of work on the programming side. Carol will certainly tell you that too.
Yeah, I think, I've got it now where typically between 5 to 10 hours a week. It's a lot more if there's a lot of programs because, I'll typically attend those programs and make sure they work well. But I think a lot of credit to Tom as well in that, I feel really confident now, having done events for a year. If I can't make it to an event or program that I set up, I know it's still going to go well. So I've been able to reduce some of the time at programming and been able to spend more time doing it.
Does that help, CL? You're on mute.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. No, I mean, I think you guys are doing, I was on the board when we were broke and it was a disaster. So, and I did squat the first year. I had no clue what I was getting into. So it was really to sort of, if there's new people running, to kind of give them a heads up that it's not just an honorary board. It's a really hard working board. And you guys have done a great job. Off and on the board.
Yeah,
the grant writer who wasn't on the board, I think, when you wrote that grant, were you?
No, I chalk that up to a head injury, which I don't.
Jim Hill. Hopefully we haven't scared you away, but Jim is going to really be our new member is really going to be helping us with web presence and the new website and just sort of really maintaining that.
Right.
So that'll be his big contribution. And we really haven't had somebody, frankly, who's been in charge of that since Joe Boven was on the board. So it'll be nice to have somebody there doing that. Well, we've got just a couple minutes left, and I know everybody, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So other questions from attendees? Donovan, if you're still there, do you want to maybe just give people a quick preview of what they can expect, since we are going to be, nothing too detailed, you don't have to go crazy, with voting and balloting and our annual meeting next week?
Yeah, give me a thumbs down if you can't hear me, but yeah, we're just gonna use e-ballot, and we're gonna have the candidates' profiles and bios up there, and hopefully it'll be straightforward and easy to vote. And it'll be anonymous, so I won't be able to see the results or anyone else on who voted for who, and only one person with a unique email will get a link, so it won't get passed around. But I don't know, I feel like this will be an easy, non-contested voting, so it'll be easy and quick and fun.
There are exactly 11 candidates and there are exactly 11 seats, but this is an opportunity for us to spin the wheels on a fully electronic balloting effort. We have traditionally done this. We've traditionally done this by wanting to ensure that people come in person. Obviously, it's not possible this time. So this is the same system that the Society of Professional Journalists uses, and it seems pretty straightforward. So you'll get an email, and that'll be coming from Donovan. I think it'll be, or from me. I think it's my email address. So. But again, I don't see the results. Donovan is our volunteer election chairman. So Donovan, thank you for volunteering to run this show. Like you said, it's all anonymous. So there is a single link that goes to you. You get one vote, so you can't just again, not a contested election, but you can't forward this to 10 of your friends and stuff the ballot for your position. So don't try that. Looking forward to that. 1 week from today, we will have our membership meeting. It'll kind of be similar to this without all the candidate statements. I will provide sort of a state of the club, give some financial updates and things like that. And, hopefully with a little, the fact that we have a little more warning. I appreciate everybody who was here. We pulled this together on short notice because, again, we're just trying to change things on the fly with so much happening. In a week, I'll provide a little bit more of an update on the state of the club, and we're not going to be voting on any amendments to bylaws or anything like that, but really just a chance for a broader pool of the membership to come together. And of course, your ballots, which I think we'll be sending out, Donovan, probably in the next 48 hours or so. Yes? Yeah.
Yeah, the plan.
48 hours. You just have to be sure that your votes are in by the start of that meeting, which is 6 p.m. on Tuesday, April 7th. So we'll do this again, another Zoom party. I don't think I have anything else. So does anybody else have anything that they would like to ask or bring up?
Nope. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Okay, appreciate the time. And of course, any questions, election questions, send an email to Donovan. And for other things, you can direct that stuff to me, president@denverpressclub.org. Appreciate all the time, everybody. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.